Alright guys, so just continuing from the previous video, if we want to have a bit more of a exposed steel structure for the roofs, there's a couple of different methods you can do. One of the simplest ones and the best ones really, so in this case it's 2 for 1. You get best of both worlds is actually if you go to the structure tab, we can use elements called beam systems and the truss systems, right? So the beam system, when you click on it, it will allow you to select an area uh, you want to use. So in this case, you can also select, so for example, if I were to click an area just next to the roof, so we can actually see something like this, and go finish, what it does, it creates a simplified beams that you can replace with any sort of beam family you want. So in this case, I had some truss selections in here. So if you select it here on the edit type, you can select a few different things. In this case, if you select this structural beam system itself, you can select the beam type from here to be whatever you want, U-beams or whatever else you want. If you need more beams and they're not showing up under here, you have to go back to the Insert tab, go to the Load Family, and then just navigate to your typical Revit family template folder and select your steel trusses or steel beams under that category. So that's the one that comes default with your Revit file. Um, Again, if we go back to here, metric details, metric library is the one. You can go to steel, structural framing, steel in this case, and you can select any different shape or form. So for example, if we wanted to go for the universal beam and you wanted a specific size, you would double click on it or open, and then it gives you a plethora of these choices. So all you have to do, ignore all of these other ones, look at the type value and just look at the height. So the first value is the actual height of your beam. So you can pick one that suits you most. These are all Australian standards sizes, so you can sort of, even though they're not exactly what you have selected, it's close enough is good enough for this particular reason. So select one you want, or a few of them you want, or use Control to do selection of multiple options, and you go OK. So now when we go back to here, oops, and under the beam type, there's all of these different options we can select to use. Okay. Now, clearly this is all flat and our roof is on an angle. And how do we make this to work together? Well, let's just go back and create a structure beam system again. So when we are creating this new system, rather than just sort of placing it as is, we can select the work plane for it. So in this case, we go to set work plane and we go pick a plane. We go OK, and then we select our roof angle itself. So I'll select this side here. And then you can either go to the top view, go into one of these side views like this. It makes no difference really. And then you can sort of start creating the size of the truss. So in this case, you can make it exactly the same size as the roof, or you can make it slightly larger or smaller, whatever your design dictates. So in this case, I'm going to make it like this. I can lock that in so it moves with the actual roof. So the align tool works really well this way. So I can select the roof itself and align that one to there and click on lock. So if you don't lock it, that means if you move your roof, that will just stay there and it will not follow the roof. This will actually make it move along with the roof. And then this distance here, what do we have? You can enter the actual value you want. So let's say 1600. There you go, okay. And now what we have the beams, but they're in the wrong, they're running in the opposite way that we want them to. So let's say we want them to be running, along the roof. So how do we fix this? So the easiest way is go back to the edit boundary itself, and you can see that there's these two additional lines on one of these lines, and that's what's called the beam direction. So if you click on this beam direction icon, you can select any one of these. So in this case, we just need to select the perpendicular one. It makes no difference if you select the left one or the right one. It just needs to be, one of these, and you go OK, and now they're running this way. So we can select individual beams and you can unlock it, unpin it, and then that allows you to modify this particular beam to be a different size um, for whatever reason you want to, so you can make it smaller, and all of these other ones can remain the same. And of course, if you ever want to go back, select that one and just go pin it back, and it will then change back to whatever the original one is. But this allows us a very quick and easy modification of these roof systems. So you always have to select the roof system itself, not the beam, which is that sort of line there, the blue line. And you can then change your layout as well. So you can specify what your fixed spacing is going to be. So let's say you need this to be at 1200. You just need to apply it and move your cursor away from the properties bar to actually apply it. So as long as you keep your cursor here, if I go 1900 and enter, nothing happens. But if I move my cursor away, it actually applies to it. So you can see this one here is actually quite interesting. 1900, we don't have any beams on the sides, it's just in the center. That's because the justification for this is the center value. You can change this one to be one of the other sides, like let's say the beginning or the end, but sometimes it still doesn't actually give you proper values. So this means there's a few different options. You can change this fixed spacing until it actually works, like this, or maybe 1850, or you can actually then go to the number. So you can say, okay, I want 6, and I want it, and then again, it doesn't do the ends. So you can do several different ways. You can create these beams on the ends, or you can actually go edit boundary again and click on the beam direction, and you can select a line. So in this case, if I go to one of these views, you can actually beam direction and just select and just draw something which is close to this, like so. So this will dictate the direction, but also where the line starts. So if you do it something like this, and you go OK, and change this one here to fine to actually see the beams, we can select our system in here, and then change from a fixed number to say fixed distance, but then the center line, for example, can be say the direction line. So the direction line will actually start from that line there and move all the way up until you can see where the other one finishes up. So there's a few different ways you can do this. As you can see, just pick whichever one is the most easiest for you. Now, of course, if you select it all here, you can see that the roof is way up above. Sorry, the beams are starting from that from the top of the roof face, and that's simply because that's what we selected when we were clicking on it. Um, you can select individual elements like this. So you can select your beam, and you can actually then change your offset value to be negative. Or what I like to do usually, if this is the case, you can go and you can modify your roof to only show you the actual cladding itself. So let's say you have a 50 mil or 48 mil or 12 mil cladding on top, which is like just like your roof sheeting itself. You can change your roof type here to be that value. So I can let's say change this to be the clip lock system, which is I believe 48 millimeters, and that's the roof sheeting itself. We can do this, and actually let's go back in here, change the structure, change the category here to actually be the roof line. So I'm just looking for any roof elements. If we can't find it, we can just create one around, or just double click on any one of these. So there you go. I'm gonna select the roof, but then under the graphics, what we want is the surface pattern. And on the pattern itself, we just need to select the model space. Always go for the model when you're doing this rather than the drafting. Drafting is 2D, you can't modify it. The model one you can actually drag along and align. So we do this one and we select one of these. So horizontal, no, maybe we'll find the vertical one, so maybe 75. If you know what your roof sheeting is, you can actually then create your own, but in this case I just use 75. Basically you just need to enter what your spacing is, so change that 75 to be 250 or something else. So I'm just going to go 75. So now we have this, and if I go OK and OK, we will now see that we have our line which is representing the sheeting itself. So now, because the roof sheeting is there, we select our roof system again, and we can go edit work plane, and under the edit work plane we go pick up plane again. Then rather than selecting the top, we will select the bottom of this roof sheeting. And now suddenly, if you have a look, let me just change this to here. You can see that now it's starting underneath. So if I go side view here, our roof sheeting is here and the beams are actually starting below it. And the beautiful area is if you actually then move the roof, so let's say we change the roof height to something else, the beam will follow. And if you change the roof thickness, the beam, the beams will still be underneath. And let's see if we can change the angle, what happens then. Correct. It just works. It just works as much as you need it to do. So it's quite nice. Yep, that's the gist of it. Feel free to make further comment, and I'll answer any further questions. But for example, if this is what you want, you can leave it. But in case you don't want to do that, you can go and unpin it and then manually and individually drag these wherever you want them to be dragged. Or you can select this, go to edit boundary, and then just modify the system itself to follow the roof itself. So let's say something like this. So we just need to trim these lines like so. Go OK, and now these are just underneath. So yeah, there's always a few different ways to do this, and it's really up to you to see which one suits you best. All right, thank you guys. Bye.